Welcome back to Fire Emblem Thracia 776. We are back in 3 times speed, which is probably one of the last times that we're going to have to do that because of reasons that I'll get into in the next chapter. But this is the Xavier chapter. That's what it's known for. It's the most intensive thing about this chapter. Without the Xavier situation, this is a rather simple chapter at the end of the day. Once you know everything that's going on, it's pretty straightforward and can even be boring depending on what you do. Your party is split into 2, and I find it funny, and this doesn't have anything to do with any of the translations or anything that are out there, but it's just funny that August is basically like, yeah, well, we gotta split up so we can get all the loot, dude. He doesn't say it like that, but that's kind of how I perceive it. And, because I'm not metagaming or using anything that allows me to change deployment, this is pretty random. I made sure to put my rewarp staves on anybody who could use it. I think I even have one on Sarah, even though she couldn't use it at this point in time. Just in case I needed to move Safi around or something like that. Luckily, the deployment was pretty good, actually, overall. I got Sage on either side. I have like enough staff users on either side. Lyra's on the right, which isn't ideal, but it's okay. And then I've got like my lesser combat units like Merida and Dawson on the right, just to deal with these like kind of scrubby soldiers and dancers and everything. You don't really need heavy hitters on this side. It's fine. Unless you plan on opening the center doors from that side, in which case, sure, you do need muscle there, but I never do that because the civilians that you have to release are not on that side. At the risk of spoiling my own playthrough, I went into this having no real intention of recruiting Xavier. We'll see if it actually happens or not. I did have sort of a plan, but it didn't involve the sleep edge. I lost the sleep staff, as we saw, when Salem died. So there's none of that. I'll explain more about what we're going to try and do in a bit. In the meantime, let's talk about those luscious treasures that August was, so rabid over. There's one on the far right. There's one on the far. It's like kind of in the center of some hallways there. There's one in the upper left. You have to just go around the big room there. You can't really see it from here. There's 2 on the bottom there. I think that's it for chests. And some of them you can reach pretty easily, the bottom ones, but the other 2, it kind of depends what the thieves do. I don't think they ever choose not to move, like in that other chapter that I hate. It's more to do with like your movement stars and stuff, and here Leaf got one, so I was able to kill that one thief. Which was pretty cool because that means I don't have to use an unlock use with Tina, which is the surefire way of getting those treasures unless you happen to get like, 6 misses in a row or something, which even for Tina is pretty unlikely. The body ring is in this chapter. There's a scroll, I think, in the upper left chest. And then in the bottom 2 chests, like one chest has something really lame, like a door key or something, and the other chest I think has like a magic tome or something. I don't quite remember. So those are the main things you want to just get done quickly when the chapter begins. And then we'll talk about the member card, which I think I talked about briefly and said I would come back to here. You see all those like dinky little soldiers that are littering the map? As far as I know, and I've never really looked into this or tried to get the member card, honestly, even in all the times I've played through this game up to this point. As far as I know, you have to keep all those guys alive, and like some of them seem to not really care so much about you, so that's not a big deal. But some of them are aggressive. So if you have a unit that's even reasonably good at combat, one of them is going to die. There might be some other different designation that means that like some of them can die and some of them can't. I don't know. I don't think it's worth the effort, even if you're not Iron Manning. And if you are, it's kind of like, geez. I don't even know if you can like rescue them, not rescue them, whatever. Here I've got Tina precariously moving along this hallway because um, what Asbel is doing down there is clogging up the stairway where dark mages come out. And all of the stairways in this chapter spawn units like every turn, every other turn, something like that. So this is one of the only other chapters where I actually will engage in spawn blocking. Because I think in this case, with the stairwells visible on the map and not just like some sort of vague forest tile or something, I think they did intend for you to block it. I think that's in the spirit of what the developers intended. So I'm okay with it. And probably most of you watching think that I'm overthinking that sort of thing, and that, you know, blocking spawns is kind of a thing that you do in just about every Fire Emblem, except for like, Fire Emblem 4, because it's all outdoors or whatever. But these dancers up here have additional treasure in their inventories, believe it or not. One of them has like a luck ring or some kind of ring. One of them has like the only fortify staff in the game, which is funny, or one of those kinds of healing staves. But I know it's like the only one in the game, and that's kind of odd. And just it's one of those things that makes this game and like old games fun. Is there's these kind of things that just don't really make sense in some way. And then I think one of them has like a pure water, and another one has something else kind of useless. So eventually we're going to have Tina block this stairwell instead because, like I was saying in a previous chapter, staff users can get stuff done from pretty much anywhere. Especially so in the case of Tina. If I need to thief something or if I need to unlock something later, then she can do it from there, so that nothing lost by having her block that spawn there. And once you've got all these blocked, that's pretty much it. You can go and unlock one of the doors. The civilians are on the far left there, meaning you're most likely going to want to open the door on that side. And I guess I'll go over all the different ways you can recruit Xavier. Can't decide whether to say Xavier or Xavier, so I'm just going to try both. The more reliable ways are to use like sleep castings, or more so the sleep sword, because it has like 10 uses, and hopefully you should have an A rank sword user on hand. The problem with the sleep sword is that a unit can be too strong. One of the commonly cited best candidates for using it is Dean. And I was actually talking about this on some message board somewhere with somebody once, that I was saying that it's possible for Dean to kill one of them, because even though the sleep sword, what happens is if you put an enemy to sleep on the first hit, and it always puts them to sleep, unlike in Fire Emblem 4, where it only has a certain % chance on hit to sleep. In this game, if it hits, it'll put them to sleep. And then if the unit would double, they actually withhold their second attack. So you can't kill them that way. However, what I was telling this person is that Dean can still kill them if he crits on that first hit. And they were like, no, Dean's not that strong at base, and he won't gain that much experience, so he won't have that much stat gain, so you don't really have to worry about that. And there is some truth to that. I'm not trying to denigrate what they said, but the fact of the matter is, like on the Mirage Forest chapter, for example, there's so many dark mages, and one time I actually got Dean a ton of levels on those guys. They're worth a lot of experience, and I probably had some sort of good scroll on him. And then I played this chapter. It was an Iron Man, and I tried using Dean, and he really was too strong. Now that's kind of an extreme case, but the lesson here is that if you use a unit that is too strong, like for example, if you've been using Fergus even like moderately, he probably has A-rank swords. So you could potentially use Fergus for this. But he probably also has a decent chance of critting, and he probably has some decent strength by this point in the game. So it's not like you can just say, well, I have this unit grinded up, I can use them, unless they're particularly weak. Somebody I used once is Misha, who obviously we don't have, who is guaranteed to be at base level for this, so that's constant. She has A-rank swords and A-rank lances, I think, for posterity's sake. So she can use the sleep sword, and she's weak enough where she will never kill one of these guys, even if she crits. And you can give her like Karen support, you can give her Nana support, well, you can give anybody Nana support, but you know what I mean. The problem with Misha is that she herself is kind of too weak. So if these guys like get too many movement stars, or they have like really absurd strength rolled, then she can die. And this same person was trying to tell me that Misha could very well die, and I have had that happen. So it's kind of a pick your poison sort of situation. You want to look for the person who has not that much strength, kind of decent bulk, that sort of stuff. And it depends on where you engage these guys, because the hallways are alternately like 1 tile, 2 tiles, etc. So what I tried to do here, in absence of any of those things, is that I just decided to let these civilians go free and hope for the best. And we'll see how that goes. But I'll talk about something I did in a different playthrough, which was my no guidance playthrough. So in that run, something else I overlooked during that run was that if you just keep re-rolling the Salem chapter until he doesn't use all of his sleep casts, and then capture him, take his staff, and then wait around to disqualify yourself from the Gaiden, then you don't have to visit the Gaiden, but you still get that sleep staff. So I could have used that in my no guidance run, but what I ended up doing to recruit Xavier, because I thought honestly that I would need him, and I was actually kind of right, was I had all the guys on this side rescue the civilians, and then I matched up, all their portraits and everything, and I did it like painstakingly slow. I had to restart the chapter twice. It was awful. So that's another way you can do it. Maybe somebody else who's like more organized than I can deal with that in like a more efficient way. I'm sure if I did it again, I could do it more efficiently, but I don't wish to do that ever again. Something else to talk about with these Armor Knights is that there's 8 of them that need to be spoken to by the NPCs, and obviously you see that there's more than 8 on the screen, and sometimes what people do is like pick these guys off from a distance before opening the door. Believe it or not, if you're doing this in kind of a haphazard way like I am, those guys can actually help you, those like extra Armor Knights, because once you have one of those guys recruited, like the one who's recruited right now, you want him to die, because you don't want him to kill any of the other Armor Knights that you still need to recruit. That's how it works. If they're recruited, then you don't have to worry about them anymore. They don't have to stay alive. You just have to have them all turn green at some point in time, and then they can die. So, like, if you were me in this situation, you could have, like, Homeros pick off the nameless guys, or I guess actually, they're all nameless, by the way, in the base game. They don't have names. It's only the translation patches added names that each begin with like the same letter. I think one of them does that, which is fine. It's not the kind of thing where you can't tell, I don't believe, just by looking at them. I didn't pay attention to that at all when I was playing this, so I don't know if the portraits like do clue you in, because some of the information like across the two wikis and like Fire Emblem WOD, some of that information is a little bit wrong, I think, in like maybe all of those. You kind of have to, your mileage may vary. I think Fire Emblem WODs might be all correct, because that's mainly going on like not the vanilla game, but like the older, more basic translation patch that didn't have any of this like weirdness going on. And I think the wikis might be partially going off the later translation patches. But anyway, what I was saying was I don't think that adding those names that match is necessarily like sacrilege. As long as there's a way in the base game for you to tell. If you're just taking a little bit of busy work out of it, I don't really have a problem with that. It's not like being able to control deployment, like how anathema I consider that to the experience of this game. And we're going to get into that more in the next chapter, actually. I think it's around this time, and mind you, when I say around this time, that I started to lose hope on this whole thing. Around this time means really about like 50 minutes, because remember, this is in 3 times speed. I missed this part where to talk about where I warped Tanya over to block this little entrance here, because these guys, like the nameless guys, something I forgot is that they don't only attack the Green Armor Knights and your guys, they also try and capture the civilians, so that can really ruin this. So what I did was, to make sure that nobody escapes, I put a 2 range unit over there so I could control this. Unfortunately, I think that like the one Tanya's attacking right now is like a named or you know, a unique Armor Knight. Because at some point in here, it's hard to tell with 3 times speed, which is why I'm glad that I wanted to do this too much after this. At some point, what happens is one of the Armor Knights rescuing or capturing a civilian. Once they have somebody captured, then they go aggressive and they will attack the civilians as well. So at some point, I got hard locked out of Xavier. Or soft locked if you consider resets, but for me it's hard locked. So at that point I just, you know, pressed the nuclear button, and here I'm getting ready to kill Xavier. If you do manage to successfully recruit all of the Armor Knights, something you should know is that you may know already that Xavier starts moving toward Leaf, and he wants to talk to Leaf, make no mistake. However, a funny quirk of him is that if somebody is in his 2 range and Leaf is not in his 1 range, he will attack. He'll attack a small child, he'll attack one of his Armor Knights that he loves so dearly, and he'll attack Leaf even. So just make sure that the only time you're in his range is if you can actually move and talk to him, or like, you know what I'm trying to say. Just make sure that none of your own guys are in his 2 range, and just get Leaf ready to talk to him. Xavier can initiate the conversation if you leave Leaf within his 1 range, but I mean, it's like, I know that that's scary. So in this case, we just killed him. It's pretty sad because Xavier really is worth it for the most part. He's has like Pavais, whatever that's called in Japanese, which, believe it or not, is not a class skill of generals. If you're thinking that promoting Dhalsim will get you Pavise on him, it's actually a personal skill of Xavier. But that's nice for him. He has Wrath, which is cool. And I think he has a cost as well. So Xavier is a killing machine, and he has like A rank axes, A rank bows, and like E rank lances and like E rank swords or something like that. So what's cool about him is that if you either didn't train Tanya and or Selfina, or they're dead or whatever, he's a good brave bow user. And even if you have trained them, you might want to give it to him anyway. He's just that good with it. Sometimes what you can do is some bosses in the future, maybe even the one on this map, you can just leave Xavier to enemy phase some of the toughest bosses in this game. And even if, like, for example, in chapter coming up, if we get there, there is a boss with a scroll in their inventory, so you can't crit them. But Xavier's Wrath is exempt from that, so he can absolutely crit that boss, and that's actually a good way to take him out if you have the ability to set that up. It's kind of tricky, but I've done it, and it's pretty effective. So I think everybody who would call themselves a fan of this game should definitely try recruiting the Xavier at least once. Put in a good effort, even if it's on an Ironman. Just put some forethought into it, and if nothing else, you can help yourself out with the sleep staff. Even though it's kind of an inefficient use of it, you can't really get 8 castings of it unless there might be somewhere you can steal one on like the A route or something, and otherwise you would have to repair it like twice, and that's not a good use of repair either, in my opinion. But you can use whatever you have to supplement the sleep sword, and you put enough time and patience into it, it'll happen. The member card, forget about it. Don't even bother. I mean, sure, if you want to say that you've been able to do it, I probably will do it myself at some point in time, in a later run, probably a more casual run. But that day is not today. And then as we're wrapping up here, let's just talk about the main boss of this chapter, who has like, a master lance or a master axe or something, and I think he has a Thoron tome, and then he has one of the manuals. I think it's the Adept manual, and he has like one other thing that's kind of cool. So if you have Pawn, and I think he might need the body ring in order to steal something on there. He can get all those items. I forget how much Thoron weighs. Oh yeah, there we go. So he has a Vulnerary. He has, I think he has a Men's Staff. I think that was. But I got impatient, and I just said, screw it. Let's just go for this kill. It's a little risky no matter who you put in there, so it's good to have like Leaf and Nana, etc. in range. I didn't wait for everybody, which was probably a mistake, but that was a pretty reliable kill, especially if you have him on that little pillar off to the side that gives extra hit and avoid, so it's sort of like having Nana there, although everything would stack. So definitely don't rush this chapter, and unless you take a really long time, you'll have to block those spawns for the whole chapter, so don't move off of them. Something that is actually really interesting in this, and not a lot of people have seen, I don't think, because people don't often go to the B route, is look, that Miranda actually fills the role of that random civilian if you have Miranda, and she's the one who impels Leaf to continue his charge. So that's a really interesting extra little tidbit, little fork condition. in a more fleshed out version of this game, it would have been interesting to see like the repercussions of that in their little relationship that's kind of teased and a little bit hidden in this game. Nothing to report on the Japanese there. It's just a really cool like hidden sequence that I like. So now we get to watch the worst promotion in all of Fire Emblem. Thank you for watching. I will see you in Chapter 19.